Hello and welcome to another What's Inside. This time we're looking at the Beanie Chase. This is a 1997 game from Johnny Goodsport Enterprises. This is the first edition, ages 7 to adult. Looks like it's 2 to 4 player. It doesn't actually say on the box. But there's only 4 player pieces, so pretty easy to guess that. Now this was of course based around the Beanie Baby craze of the late 90s. And the same imagery is kind of all around the sides. It's a very low rent production, as you can see from the obvious photo that was quite literally cut. You can see these sharp angles. Fairly low end looking production, but a lot of games around this time from indie publishers had this kind of look. It's very early on in the computer era, so personal computers weren't exactly very cheap, so you weren't going to get high-end Photoshop work or anything. This company's out of Farmington, Michigan. I don't know if they're still around. They probably got sued into the ground by Beanie Babies because they're not related to Thai Inc. So I don't think they had any kind of official permission. This was the unofficial Beanie Babies game. So let's see what we've got here. This copy is complete, so we'll see what we got. First we'll start with our quad board. I apologize for the glare, there's not a whole lot I could do about that. But you get the general idea. You start over here and work your way around the board. And it's sort of just your generic looking board game board. Beanies are here 10 a.m. You see the crowds, different people trying to get the Beanie Babies, that sort of thing. Pretty standard, very general imagery, early computer graphics design. The art is fairly low rent, but the board itself is actually not bad. The stickers are a little off-center. You can see here this goes right up to the edge of the cardboard, and you can kind of hear it clicking, but I don't know if they assembled this themselves or what, but these stickers are fairly large to be putting on by hand, so they probably got it as cheap as they could. And unfortunately, some of them ended up very off-center, because you can see the space up here, and then on this side there's a lot of extra space. So be aware of that. This is a very low rent production. Get kind of a better look at the board. And I believe the cards go here on the craze cards because you got craze cards. So let's take a look at some of the other pieces next. We'll look at the rule sheet and the actual counting boards so you have an idea of what you can expect from the components. Okay, so we've seen the quad board. The board itself isn't bad. The stickers obviously were not done by a high-end professional operation. Not a huge deal. I've seen a lot of these, but if you're a die-hard collector who wants everything to be pristine, you'll want to pay attention to that. Alright, you get 4 of these sheets, which all have tokens in them. Now, the instruction sheet says that there are 240, but there's in fact 256, because each one of these has 64 on it, and there's 4 of them. So the math doesn't quite add up with what they said. So I was lucky enough to actually have these to know that I don't have extra pieces. Just the sheet misunderstood. I think originally they probably had smaller grids. So not a huge deal, but it's something to be aware of if you end up thinking you have extra pieces. Now the game rules are here, and they have the contents list, colorful 20 by 20 quad fold game board, 4 scorecards, each with 50 different pictures of actual beanies, 52 game craze cards, 8 poem cards, 8 game pawns, 2 dice, 240 game tokens, which are divided up between red, yellow, blue, and purple. Each color represents a different type of beanie, and then beanie bucks, which are 5s, 10s, and 15s. So the game rules are actually a little complicated looking because this is two-sided. So then you've got 4 checklists, which are all exactly the same. And these are actually pretty decently made. There's this kind of cheap gloss on it, but it's held up very, very well. So let's see if I can get that in there without reflecting. Now this game was very of the moment. They were cashing in on the craze, and the Beanie Baby craze was pretty insane for 1990s. There were rares, which is what this is broken down into. You've got reds, which are retired beanies. You got your yellows, which are newbies. Then you've got your blues that are hard to find, and purple are currents. Now you've got everything from Peanut and Pincers to the 1997 Teddy. So there are 50 on here, and the different colors like the purples and the blues, yellow, red, etc. are represented by the number of tokens that are in the game. So there are 4 of these, and this is the 1998, as of January 1998 list, it says. And you can see they've got photo of different beanies on here, all of which have the little trademark insignia so they could try and not get sued. Although I think they probably would have anyway. So if they did get sued and went out of business, this game would be worth a little bit. But I think the fact that it's so rare is going to make it interesting to collectors anyway. So this does say copyright 1997. So the game mechanics were probably, and the instructions were copyrighted, and then they just updated this in January of 1998 before they actually released the game. So you get 4 of these. That's how many people you can have playing. Or you could probably do teams, I'm not sure. Then we get to our tokens, which are popped out of the actual pieces that we saw earlier. And these are not very big. Lost my ruler, but you'll get kind of an idea here. Here are some purple ones that fell out of the bag. These are a little bigger than an American dime. Probably closer to a nickel size. And they're not quite centered wonderfully. But you get 4 bags. 1 for blue, 1 for red, 1 for yellow, and 1 for purple. And the purple bag's leaking, so these are kind of falling out. Now I counted these before I started the video just to save some time. And there are 24 red ones, 40 yellow, 64 blue, and 128 purple. So that comes to a total of 256. So there's probably going to be some extras, but that's okay. So be aware of that. That's how many of these you should have. Next we'll get to the pieces. These are pretty stock standard game pieces. You get 2 regular old style game dice, but they're black. These are classic board game dice. Nothing's particularly exciting about them. They roll great, weighted very nicely. Then you get your 8 movers. So I'm assuming you could do teams of 2. But you've got white, purple, black, red, green, yellow, blue, and orange. So the regular colors, 8 movers. Pretty exciting stuff. The fact that you have 8 movers is pretty nice, and these are really good quality. I don't know if these are the originals, but I think they are. Alright, and then we get to the poem cards, as they call it, which are like character cards, the regular craze cards, and the money. And I'll adjust the camera for that. What they call the poem cards are actually like character cards. And these are little character sheet sort of things about the people, the movers. So you've got Green Casual Kate, and they all have a little poem, which is a weird gimmick, but hey, whatever. Then you've got Black Marco, the Insider, Orange Retired Ben, Blue Dealer Dave, Purple Grandma Rita, Red Best Friend Melody, White Sweet Young Gretchen, and Yellow Cool Aunt Rose. Now those are the 8 ones that are included, but there's also a 9th one, which is Craze Card Ellie the Mom. And this looks like just a wild card thing, probably for the parent to play, and they could just kind of pick a color, I guess. So this is a 9th card that's not mentioned on the instruction sheet, so be aware of that as well. We'll get to the Craze cards next. And these have backing that looks like this. I'll try and keep these out of that glare spot that I seem to have created somehow. And there are 52 of these, I believe. And finally, so that's all the cards. Then onto the money. There's a stack of 5s, 10s, and 15s. Now the 5s and the 15s, there are 30 of that I counted, and yellow had 49. I may have miscounted and it's 50, but I only counted 49. And as far as I know, this is complete. So be aware of that there are more yellow than the other two. So this is the 5s. And the 10s. And the 15s. Now, of course, like Monopoly money, these are very, very thin, and they came with a little backer board piece. So these are very, very thin paper. Unlike the cards, which are actually pretty decent quality, this is pretty decent card stock for a board game of this independent nature. This is very much like Monopoly money, slightly thicker than the modern Monopoly money, but still pretty thin nonetheless. Also inside the box was a little mail away for Johnny Goodsport Enterprises, so you could fill out like a additional games thing to request an extra copy. It was $24.95 plus $5 shipping. Michigan residents had 6% sales tax. So they did have this in there as well. If you're a diehard completionist, I guess maybe you'd want that. Alright, and that is what is inside the Beanie Chase, first edition, ages 7 to adult, from Johnny Goodsport Enterprises. The copyright's 1997, but this probably came out in early 1998. So it looks like a obvious cash grab to bank on the craze of the Beanie Babies, and hey, good on them, I guess. They probably ran into some trademark and copyright issues with the Thai company that owns Beanie Babies, but it's a good way to make a couple bucks, I guess, if you're willing to take the risk. So this game's probably pretty hard to find complete. The Beanie Baby thing, I never understood that, but it was a huge deal in the 90s for a couple years, actually, and now you can buy them at garage sales for $1. So there's still a few that are worth money, and people still do collect them. So if you're a diehard Beanie Babies person, this is probably going to be for you, and it'd be a good addition to your collection. As far as games go, it doesn't look that bad. The game mechanics are very straightforward. It's a pretty standard board game, so I don't think it'd be too bad to play. You might have to explain to your kids what Beanie Babies are, but they do still have a market for this sort of thing. So that's what's in the box. I've heard my take. It looks okay. Quality's actually better than I expected. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you can, share it around on your social media. And if you'd like to support the channel in other ways, pick yourself something nice up from the Teespring store. Support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Or one time through Streamlabs that uses PayPal. Regardless, as always, we hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.